Welcome to the GoGCast, brought to you by XSplit Broadcaster, simple yet powerful live streaming and recording. And now, your host, Leah.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Girls on Games podcast. This is episode number 61. It's been a really wild week. We've been really tight to the computer screens, the Twitters, the Facebooks, all that jazz, because some wild announcements has happened from Montreal. Yeah, we're special this year. It seems like all the fun is coming our way. But before we get into all that and the news and all that fun stuff that's going to happen today, along with our guest, I want to let you know who's on the podcast here today. I have my partner in crime, Miss Catherine Smith-Digging. How you doing?
I'm good.
We have our very new expert in esports, Sarah. How are you doing?
I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but
You're pretty good.
thank you. I'm doing fine. How are you?
Very good, very good. It's been a long Monday, but a good one.
Yes.
If that exists. I mean, we're in the podcast. Everything's rolling. It's a good Monday. We've also got our guest, Patrick. He's a game designer, and he also runs his own podcast, Mais en français, Les Jeux Sont Fait. Patrick, thank you for coming to join with us today.
My pleasure.
So, you had Catherine on your podcast, so we stole you to be on ours.
Fair enough.
So, before we get into everything you do, I want to know what games you're playing right now.
I'm going back to my 2015 catalog. So right now I'm spending a lot of time on the mobile version of Dawnwell. So it's pretty good so far. I was a huge fan of Spelunky. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to try what may be like a mobile or streamlined version of that kind of game. And it's pretty damn good so far.
Nice. Kat, what are you playing?
I am currently reviewing a game, so I can't tell you what I'm playing. I can tell you what I was playing before that. I'm still into Fire Emblem. I really want to get through all 3 games before I talk about it online on the website and write an article, because I have feelings, but I feel that I need to see if my feelings are from beginning to end.
Okay, so you need to get complete things. Have you thought about writing down your feelings now and then seeing if you still have the same feelings later?
Well, so far they've been the same throughout. Like, I did all of Birthrights, which is like 27, 28 chapters. Mm-hmm. I'm at chapter 20 or 21 on Conquest, and no, it hasn't changed. How I feel about Birthright, playing Conquest has only amplified my feelings about Birthright, but I still want to go through Revelation because I want to know if it's worth it to play the 3 games or if you can just go through. Because right now I feel that you could skip Birthright and play Awakening, which is the previous game. Get a very good complete experience out of that game and then play Conquest and Revelation. Because Birthright is a bit of a shell of what Fire Emblem is, I feel. But I still haven't finished Conquest and I still haven't tried Revelation. So I cannot confirm and put a checkbox next to it until I've done it all.
That's a project.
Yep.
A lot of games. Sarah, what are you playing? I know you hollered at the crew to see who was playing Diablo 3 the other day.
Very much what I'm playing right now. It's a game that I've started to play not exactly when it came out, but when Reaper of Souls came out, and I just kept on playing it. And it's a game that I always come back to every time.
It's kind of an addiction.
It's kind of, yes, but the thing is, I like it. It's grinding and it's always doing kind of the same thing. And I feel there's so much potential in Diablo that Blizzard hasn't tapped in yet.
Yeah.
It's a shame. But it's just, I don't know. I really like it. And it's such a social game when you're playing with friends. It's really cool. So that game, and I'm going back to Osu too. So
nice.
It's going to be cool.
Yeah, Diablo is a game that really is better with friends. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because sometimes the grinding is mindless, so you can carry on a conversation that is outside of Diablo and still enjoy Diablo. It's one of those games too that I'm actually debating buying another version on another console, because I didn't buy it until Reaper of Souls either and got it on Xbox, but now I'm feeling like everybody's like, let's play it on PC, and now that I have a PC capable of doing so, I think I might have to jump on that bandwagon.
Well, I'm thinking if they don't do a sale soon, I know that every time around BlizzCon they always do a sale.
Okay.
Although it's pretty far away, but still.
I might have to just buckle down and buy it.
Yes, do it.
I'm also myself playing The Division still grinding through that. Made it to level 20 yesterday, and playing MLB The Show 16 with my husband, working on a review for that. A little slower on the sports games sometimes, because you really do want to get a season in, and it takes a bit of time. Plus, you want to try like the season. You want to play make your own player. You want to do like the management style. The graphics in that game are unbelievable. I've never seen anything quite as real. It's wild, and the movement and yeah. I don't know. Sports games, there's something like kind of we poo-poo on them sometimes, but you know what? Some of the most realistic things I see in sports games. So, all right. So let's get on to some news now. Like I mentioned earlier, it's been a wild week for us here in Montreal. And why is that?
The weather?
Pardon?
No.
The weather, maybe?
The weather, yeah, the weather has been crap, but that's something I try to ignore while I stay inside and play video games. But no, we get Dreamhack. Dreamhack Montreal is coming here August 12th to 14th. This year, which is surprising that they announced it like last week and it's happening in a few months. Like, that's kind of wild. And we've actually got our first announcement of what games and competitions will be had, which includes StarCraft 2. I'm going to let Sarah take it away on the details on that, because she knows more about that than I do. So Sarah, maybe you can give us some insight of what you think we might be seeing at Dreamhack Montreal.
So for the news is it's the WCS Circuit Summer Championship. So for those who don't know what WCS is, it's the World Championship Series for StarCraft, held by Blizzard in different kind of events. So Dreamhack is one of them. There's also IEMs and other events. I'm not gonna name them all, but there's a few of them. So the Summer Championship is actually big news. It's gonna attract a lot of big players, lots of big names in the scene. So for those who actually enjoy StarCraft, you'll see a lot of pro players. I'm pretty sure of that. It's also a very, very nice prize pool of $150,000. And it's also 11,000 WCS circuit points that leads to BlizzCon. So that is really good for the players. If they can manage to place well in that championship, they'll actually, some of them might actually be able to go to BlizzCon straight away. So it's really big news.
Oh, wow. And that's the first of, I'm sure, many competitions that we're going to see here in Montreal.
I really hope so.
Yeah.
I'm thinking so. Like, I've heard rumors. I've heard things.
Well, so, but the StarCraft one was the one that you, even when you started hearing the news and started looking at the folks on Twitter talking about Dreamhack, the folks involved in Dreamhack and kind of like what they're saying publicly, you were like, yeah, StarCraft 2 is
yeah, like it's just because StarCraft for me is the whole reason why I'm into esports. I'm just like, I love this game, even though it's really like a bitch to play, let's call it that. But it's a really cool game, and for people that don't really know it, you can learn more about it. But seriously, it's a really nice game. It's an RTS game. It's a lot of skills, it's a lot of talent, a lot of practice. But I was super happy when they actually announced it officially that, you know, StarCraft would be there. It's really, really, I'm super happy. I'm stoked, actually.
Sarah, I was cleaning up my computer room the other night and I found an original copy disc of StarCraft.
I was like, no, Lee, give it to me.
I feel like framing it.
You should actually. I've seen all of the games you found. I'm like, dude, just make, you know, those kind of frames with different
yeah. I found Diablo too. Well, I have a whole kit of Diablo. Like I had 1 and 2. Yeah, I bought it when I was living in the States, and I only had the Mac, and I wanted to play a PC game, and Diablo worked then at that time on a Mac.
but frame them, like put them all together, all the Blizzard's game together, just frame them.
That'd be fun. Graf might have something to say about that. Maybe I'll just give him the keys. He can go download the game.
Yeah.
I know he wanted it. Huh?
Yeah, I know. I saw that.
Now, Patrick, as a game designer yourself, are you excited about Dreamhack and what you're seeing happening in the city when it comes to esports?
As a game designer, that's interesting because we start to have a pretty damn huge indie scene in Montreal, and I'm super curious about the influence of that kind of event going to have on maybe the multiplayer games that we're developing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing, as a guy who's making podcasts, I'm also super interested by the eventually how the mainstream media gonna cover that. Because I feel like, especially in the French part of the media in Quebec, we're a little bit like maybe, I don't know, we're not really into like people who are making money on YouTube and with esports and stuff like that. So I feel like having this huge event is going to be a great opportunity to explain that story.
Yeah, I mean, there's like in Canada, it's just I think it's a little slower, even more so than the U.S. I mean, we do have that. What is it? The Sportsnet app, the Score. I mean, they jumped on esports really quick, but yeah, I mean, in the States, it was only recently the ESPN jumped on. Now Canada, TSN has, RDS has done a few things. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that all pans out. If it means they're going to change things, obviously, I mean, I work at ML, so I see some things happening. Action. Some people are like, out damn time, and then other people are like, what is this? Why are you putting video games on my Sportsnet channel? Or whatever, sports ball channel. But yeah, it's interesting to see how it's all going to pan out and how they're going to cover it. Whoever jumps on it first is going to win. That's what's going to happen. Someone just has to go in, lay down the money, and say, I'm covering this. And they're going to win.
Yes, so true.
Sounds like Zoom is pooping hard for Simon. So that's the technical producer running in the background. Simon, did you want us to pause and potentially sound is still there, but the video is crapping out on you? Do you want us to pause and reboot it and we can come back and continue the cast? Would that help you? 2 seconds. Okay, bear with us 2 seconds, folks. Hey, we're back. Hi. I think we have our technical difficulties fixed, thanks to Mr. Simo. So yeah, we were talking about Dreamhack Montreal and all that jazz. Just want to remind everybody who's in chat, all you friendly folks, that we actually have Dreamhack is partnering up with the folks who are running LAN ETS, which is here in Montreal. That's happening this weekend. And we have tickets to give away, some bring your own computer tickets, which are worth $85 a piece. You can go sign up to enter to win those on girlsongames.ca. Draw's going to happen on Thursday, so I can make sure that the info is in for the people to be able to go on Friday. Yeah, you should go do it. You can enter through like Facebook and Twitter and Twitch and all that jazz. So yeah, go do it. Go do it. Go sign up. But yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about some more DreamHack stuff because I know Sarah is heading out to DreamHack Austin, which is in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, crazy.
What are you hoping to see there?
I'm freaking out. It's just like there's been so many things happening. Mainly, it's gonna sound so stupid, but I know a lot of people in esports, which is actually the reason why they go to events, is just to see their friends.
Oh yeah.
It sounds like, why are you spending so much money on this? Well, you know, a lot of my friends actually either live in the US, they live in Europe, Sweden, Germany, and all of those places. But the only times you can actually, you know, hang out and see those people is at those events. So my main thing is to see friends of mine that I haven't ever met, but we've been talking for years on the internet. So for this, just like hands down, that's my first thing. Second thing is to actually interview some girls in the industry that I personally know or that are like friends of friends. So I'll be able to interview them, see what they think about the industry for girls, how they got into esports, how they got into games, and just see their whole, like, you know, point of view about everything. So it's going to be very, very interesting. And also, you know, well, first thing, also enjoying the event because you need a DreamHack. So that's also.
We are very excited for all that content that you're going to bring back our way.
Oh yes, you have no idea, Ali. And I'm like, pictures.
Oh yes.
I like taking pictures. Actually, it's a hobby of mine to like photograph and shit. I'm gonna spend so much time. So yeah, like lots of things.
Awesome. Oh, well, we are really excited. So we have to book you for when you come back so you can come here and tell us all the details and pretty much get everybody ready for Dreamhack Montreal.
Yes.
Because fingers crossed, it's going to be just as awesome.
I hope so. Well, I mean, it's Dreamhack. They have a reputation for making really good events. So I'm not really scared about that. I'm kind of, and I brought that point to one of my friends who actually works at Dreamhack, and I brought the point that I'm kind of just semi-frustrated that they announced it so close to the date.
That's okay. They probably scrambling. Like those kind of events, like anything like that. It's always so last minute when they finally get things confirmed, so they have to. But now it's going to be an annualized thing, so
yeah. But like, see, the thing with Austin, they announced it almost 6 months before, if not more.
Okay.
I'm kind of like,
it's okay. You don't have to travel. You're here.
That's true, though. I'll be so happy. I'll be like, we're renting an apartment and just having everybody there. Let's go.
That's going to be fun. Going to be good times. All right, we got a few other news stories to talk about. I don't know if you guys saw this, but a real handgun was made in the style of a Nintendo Zapper. And in case you were wondering, it's a Glock. It's kind of a weird looking object. The fact that it has like the Nintendo branding on it, it's gray, and then it has like the gun barrel and everything, and the thing works. But the internet freaked out. Both people wanting to buy it and then people being like, what are you doing? This is a child's toy. The company went and turned around and said this was a specialty one-of item. They're not planning on producing anymore. It was done kind of as a a favor to a friend. So yeah, I don't think you have to worry about seeing people carrying around a Nintendo Zapper Glock. That's a good thing, right?
We just have to worry about that one person that bought it.
I imagine that they're just going to put it in a storage case and be like, this is so awesome, and not use it. Fingers crossed. We got an announcement for Titanfall 2. All right, hold up. Let me get this straight. We got an announcement that they're going to talk about Titanfall 2 on June 12th at the EA Play event. I think that's what they're calling it, EA Play event, which is what EA is doing now instead of doing E3. Same time.
Announcement of an announcement.
Announcement of announcement. That's what we've come to here. But I mean, that seems to be seems to be normal here now. You got teasers, then you get trailers, then you get announcements, and it's kind of normal. I'm kind of used to these like build-ups to build-ups to build-ups to the real thing. Looks pretty neat. They're actually going to give us a full story campaign this time around, and more importantly, mech swords. So I don't know what's more important to you guys about Titanfall, if it's a full story campaign or mech swords. Patrick, did you get to play Titanfall 1?
Yeah, the first one. I really liked it, but I don't know if it was because it was an Xbox One exclusive. It was community. It was quite short. So after 6 months, it wasn't the best of game. So for me, in that case, I think the biggest story is the multi-platform version. Mm-hmm. So there was also talk in the previous month about maybe being, as an Xbox user, being able to play with PlayStation user. So I don't know if they're going to use the opportunity of that new game to maybe talk again about those future functionalities.
Oh, that would be cool. That would be really cool. And it makes total sense for EA to do that rather than a PlayStation or an Xbox main property. My theory, there wasn't enough Xbox Ones in the wild at that time when it came out, and then Destiny happened. So yeah, that's why I think it didn't really grab people like maybe Halo did when it came out with Xbox. Yeah, it happens. Sarah and Kat, are you? Did you play Titanfall at all?
Nope.
I think demo.
Yeah, I believe we played the demo
a while back. I did the demo, I think. And then I think I played the beta. I really didn't get into it all that much. I'm terrible at shooters. I don't really enjoy them, and they give me nausea. So I tried to get a mech a few times, and then people kept killing me, and I'm just like, well, if I can't get to the fucking robot and run around as a robot, I lost interest really quick.
I did really like being in the mech suit. I thought the HUD and the look and kind of like the RGB breaking points were really neat. I think that was just cool, but that's just aesthetics, and that's me because I'm a graphic designer and I looked at these things. It's the same kind of thing I kind of swooned over when playing Quantum Break. It's anytime you have like an RGB like meld thing happening where it breaks, you got me. You got me. I'm easy to please. What can I say? All right, and the last little piece of news that we got here is Gears of War 4 trailer has come out. Looks like the game follows the son of Marcus Phoenix. It's 25 years after Gears 3. And because I'm a rock geek, features the song The Sound of Silence, sung by Disturbed, who are coming to Heavy Montreal. Thank you very much. I'm going to be working on that interview to ask them about... Woo! I am going to be working on trying to get a hold of Disturbed, see if I can talk to them about the process and see, because I'd been listening to that track prior to the trailer coming out and thought it was absolutely unbelievable. But I'm wondering if they had well, it's actually a cover, but if they had recorded it purposely for Gears of War and then, or if, like Xbox saw it and was like, we want to do the same thing as Mad World, let us use your song, or if they were asked to do it. So yeah, did you guys get to see the Gears of War 4 trailer?
Yeah, and my first reaction was kind of, So,
really?
Yeah, to be honest, after the first Gears of War, I was pretty much done with it. So seeing a fourth of those without showing any interesting stuff on the mechanic front, of course, it's like a sneak preview of a sneak preview within a sneak preview. I'm aware of that, but they're gonna need to bring something really interesting, I think, to grab me.
It was very much setting the stage. There was no gameplay. It was just graphics and seeing Marcus Phoenix and seeing his son and seeing things getting shot kind of in the shadows and the sultry sounds of Disturbed singing in the background. Yeah, it was, you're not going to see much yet. It's really just that tease. All right, cool. So that pretty much rounds up news for us here today. I want to get into what Patrick's up to because he's our wonderful guest. So, Patrick, you have to give us the 1-minute pitch. What is Les Jeux Sont Fait?
So, Les Jeux Sont Fait is all about spending 30 minutes to 1 hour with game developers every week. Mm-hmm. So, every 2 weeks, we do an episode where we just talk a little bit like you about the news, but we bring that game developer perspective. So, for instance, there are some discussion about the PlayStation 4 with a 4K resolution and stuff like that. So usually people talk about, oh, it's going to be amazing, everything's going to be beautiful and stuff like that. But on our side, we're going to bitch about, oh, it's going to be more art program, provide texture for that and that kind of stuff. So it's really to bring that new perspective. And then the other set of 2 weeks, we also talk, we just spend time with a game developer talking about what has been the road until they reach the game industry. Why do they like their job right now? What is difficult, stuff like that. So it's all about a bunch of game developers talking about stuff.
Cool. And what inspired you guys, who are both game designers yourselves, to start this podcast?
I think the video game offer on the French front was 2 years ago pretty samey. So a lot of bros talking about the last Call of Duties and stuff like that. So as a huge fan of podcasts, I was like, I have maybe one podcast for video game and that's pretty much it. So I really like also the medium. So I was like, oh, maybe I can provide something new to that. And a lot of my friends love to know what is happening behind the scene in video game. So I think there was an opportunity to have fun and talk about our job and at the same time be better at describe what the job is. Because again, I think a lot of the way the mainstream press described what is happening in game making right now, sometimes I'm like, it's not like that. So it's an opportunity to maybe be clear about some facts.
Cool. How long has it been running?
It's been 2 years and 3 months so far. So
good for you.
Thank you.
What has been the most exciting interview that you've done so far?
We received Simon Darvaux, who is at Spearhead. Wow. So initially we had this guy to talk about co-op games because they sent a PS4 game at launch, 4 players on the same screen. So I was really interested by this idea of having this next-gen machine, but providing a game that you can play with 4 people without internet and stuff like that. So there was an interesting story in there. But then he talked really passionately about what's going to be the guild eventually and that kind of stuff. So about having indies developer unifying their forces and working together to build a better industry and stuff like that. So it was really interesting, quite touching.
Sorry about that. I had to ban somebody. Dropping the ban hammer.
I was trying to ban him, and you got it.
I got to it first. Ban hammer for the win.
It's not a podcast until somebody asks us to show them our tits.
Oh, God.
Yeah, Patrick, you don't have to worry about that one. It's a girl thing that keeps happening.
Get to it, though. So
go for it. Show it.
Probably even guys must wear shirts on Twitch. It's in the rules.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah. Oh my. So, have you guys now? Do you mostly talk about development itself? Now, I know you had Kat on to talk about what we do and those kinds of things. Do you guys deal with like hot topic issues, like maybe like Gamergate and things like that, or do you stick to more on the development side of things?
We stick to development, but I feel like there's a story to tell about people who are gravitating around game development. We're really lucky in Montreal. We have big, huge studios. We have a lot of indie developer, a very diverse indie scene, and I feel like we can tell the whole story without talking about the media. So since 95, 96, we have a lot of video game media. We have an interesting also situation in Quebec because some medias are in French, some in English, some people work at both. So I find it super interesting to talk about. And in the case of your website, I think you have a pretty unique angle for video games. So it was important for me to talk about that.
Cool, thanks. Kat, you've got further questions?
Sorry, I'm getting distracted by chat. Something fierce. Every podcast.
I have to ignore it. I have to forcefully ignore it. I'm sorry, guys in chat. That's why I asked everybody else to read it and throw their questions. That reminds me, if you have questions for Patrick, please throw them in the chat. Kat will take care of them, make sure that they're in the Google Doc, because I can't read chat at the same time.
Yeah, so like when I was on Les Jeux Sont Fait, we talked about some interesting stuff just about women in general and the gaming industry. And for you, you've been working in the gaming industry for a long time. Like for you, what's the biggest change you've seen since you started working until today? And because now gaming is getting so mainstream that it's not gonna be a sheltered thing anymore.
Yeah, just in my case, it's super interesting. When I started, I was at Binox in Quebec City. So I was working on console game, and eventually they released that little device named iPhone. And for me, like it was a big paradigm shift because at this point now, grandmother were able to play games. There was also the DS with Brain Age and stuff like that. And for me, like as a game designer, like the biggest game changer was this expanding market. Like when I was working at Binox, I was aiming for kids, little boys, stuff like that. But I spent some time at EA Mobile working on Scrabble games and stuff like that. And when you start to work on that, you have to leave behind every stuff you learn like in 5 years of game design, because now you're dealing maybe with someone who is playing for the first time with a game.
And having conversed with like so many people, like you have your experience and then you're talking with everybody, like every aspect. You've talked to game designers, you've talked to motion artists, and you've talked with me, who's basically media. So every angle, like with all of this, with all of these conversations, like what do you take out of it? Like what are anything that stands out that you see like an underlying trend or just something that hits you? Like when you look at all your Les Jeux Sont Fait episodes, you're just like, wow, like this, I learned this.
People are pretty damn passionate, have a lot of passion in the game industry. So we don't even need to think about the work condition, but stuff like that. But sometimes, like, just because people love the medium, they are able to take a lot and work a lot and iterate a lot. So every time people talk about what they do in games, in media and stuff like that, a lot of people in media work for free. And for me, that's incredible, considering the quality of what we have.
Yeah, it's a lot of passion projects out there. To get started with an indie dev studio, like you really, really got to want to do what you're doing.
Is that something you'd love to do yourself, start an indie studio, or are you trying to more focus on Les Jeux Sont Fait?
That is kind of a goal for me this year, to learn a little bit to program and maybe test a few game ideas at home. And if I find something pretty interesting, maybe publish it. So yeah, eventually, because of course I do some stuff at work. It's super interesting, but sometimes I love to have this space just to test weird stuff and not feel bad because I'm wasting money or stuff like that. So yeah.
Any chance of you creating content in English? Now, mostly you're focused in French right now, but and I listen to a lot of podcasts, and there's not a lot of game creators talking to game creators about making games. It's kind of rare. Is it something you guys might want to venture into?
Maybe in the future, but maybe 3 or 4 years. I still feel that we can do much more content in French. We want eventually to maybe make videos, maybe, I don't know, PlayStation with game developer where we play games with them and ask questions about why did you make that or stuff like that. So I feel like just on the French front, there's a lot of things still yet to do. And to be honest, I listen to a few English podcasts about like game development, and I feel those are pretty damn good. So I feel comfortable with the state of the English side of it so far.
I'm going to have to get the name of those podcasts from you.
Of course.
Well, we'll do that later, because today is about you. So have you always worked as a game designer, or have you dabbled in development as well, or different aspects of game creation?
My first year was in QA. It was a classic then. So when I started, it's been like 10 years ago. I think about it, and that's kind of hard. But
we feel you.
Yeah, but when I started, there was not much of video game school and stuff like that. So I kind of learned it the hard way, spent some time in QA, and then I was pretty lucky. Maybe after 1 year of QA at Binox, I had this opportunity of being a junior game designer. So I've been a game designer since then.
Is there anybody in particular that you haven't spoken to yet that you really, really want to get on your podcast?
Oh, that's a good question. Should be interested. Patrice Deslay is quite important in the Montreal scene, so maybe spend time with him about when he's going to be able to talk a little bit more about the project he's working right now. I'm super curious about why he chose that project within the context of an indie developer. So maybe in the future, that could be a good one.
Yeah, that would be entertaining. Any games that you've played recently by indie developers that you're super excited about?
I played Donwell. So this one is, as I said before, I was a huge fan of Spelunky, so I find it interesting. But for me also, Donwell is, I think, an important moment because it's no surprise that Japanese developers have struggled in the last 5 years, maybe. And for me to see a Japanese developer who is working on his first game and releasing that kind of quality while being in Japan, for me, it's super interesting and maybe the beginning of a new era for Japanese gaming. So this one was really interesting. It was kind of fun to deal with Japanese weirdness again. So yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah, it's something that has kind of like removed itself from games unless you're really into like the hardcore RPGs. And even those are kind of hard to come by in some cases unless you have like a Vita. It seems like less on PlayStation, or you're going into the depths of Steam. It seems like we've kind of lost our Japanese style RPG that, you know, was everywhere in the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like also Japanese people tried to emulate a lot of American games and European games, and they lost a lot of their unique flavors. So it's quite a pleasure to see that back.
And I think like they're trying to bring it back. Like Square Enix is working really hard on bringing it back with this next Final Fantasy. Bravely Default was a great success. It was basically a Final Fantasy without the name Final Fantasy. And then that was enough for us to be like, yeah, this is right. These are good games. And I mean, FromSoft with Dark Souls 3, which Simon is itching because he can't play it right now because he has to produce this. I think like
shut up.
God, getting very mad at us right now.
But I think you're right. There is a trend where like Japanese games just kind of like either got bland or disappeared, and you only have like pretty much like FromSoft that were like, we're still gonna make our crazy shit. And then now you have like the Square Enix of this world being like, we used to be good. We used to be the shit. Like, what do we need to do? And I'm really excited to see like Final Fantasy, to see if they could really take what they learned with Bravely Default and really make a awesome game.
Wonder if that's like the new thing for games coming out of Japan. It's like the wicked hard, and yeah, the revival of Final Fantasy. I mean, I don't think it's going to be the Kingdom Hearts or anything like that. Like, that's still too Americanized in my way of thinking. It's almost like a hybrid platformer sort of style, action platformer. Maybe that's the way of the Japanese future. I really can't wait for Final Fantasy 15. I want to feel like I did when I played Final Fantasy 7, when I played Final Fantasy 10 again. I want that addiction.
How do you feel about this idea of having 2 movies and then a soundtrack and a manga and
It's very Japanese. It seems like that's the way it used to be. When you look back at like, okay, you're gonna get a little bit of my history here. I was a hardcore anime manga nerd back when I was in junior high and high school. I have a lot of Japanese manga and Sailor Moon, a lot of that. So like Sailor Moon, you'd have the TV show, you had the manga, you had the video game, so they were kind of weird. Though there was an RPG one that I did stream once, SNES game. But yeah, like it always seemed like there was this circle of stuff around an entity. It was never just the one thing. Now I know you kind of do that in American culture, but usually it's like the movie is it, and everything around it sucks. Like the games around movies usually suck. It's not like in Japan where they refine everything and everything is treated in its own medium and is excellent, but still keeps the essence of what was, what is the main source of content or the main storyline. So that could be really interesting to see. In Quantum Break, they're trying to do it. I know if you go and read Catherine Ashley's review on the site, she gives it kind of like mediocre. She was like, okay, this is a good first try, and for that, I'm going to give you props, but it needs work, right? And I can see that too. Like, it's a beautiful game. It just, there's like some things, because they tried to do so much stuff, maybe they missed out on a few things. But in Japan, they don't do that. If they're going to do anything, they're going to do it like full on the right way to go. So Final Fantasy, if it's going to be as good as we hope it is with all these different elements, I really think is going to have an edge of polish to it that we're just not used to here. How about you, Kat?
Yeah, I agree. I have high hopes. Because like I grew up, like, I don't know if you remember, but every time there was a Disney movie, then Saturday morning cartoons would be that Disney movie until the next Disney movie.
Like the characters were in another scenario.
Oh, I mean, I remember watching the Little Mermaid, the TV show, Lilo and Stitch, the TV show, The Emperor's New Groove, the TV show.
So just saying, the some of the video games that came out of those movies, the Disney ones, like the Lion King one, and was it the Aladdin one? Like those are the ones.
Aladdin was the shit.
Those are the ones that really stuck in my head as a kid.
They were hard as fuck, man. I still remember what was the code to pass a level in Aladdin? I think it was ABBA start select, something like that. Like, somebody in chat find it. But it's a very Disney/Japanese way. I don't know. So far, I've been treated well by Fire Emblem. I've been treated well by Bravely Default. I have high hopes for Bravely Second, which is coming out in America soon. It's been out in Japan for like a year. I have high hopes for the next Final Fantasy. I have high hopes for the remake of Final Fantasy VII. I have high hopes for everything that's coming out of Japan right now because I feel it's a revival. So, I mean, Bloodborne was very true to the FromSoft. Like, as I played 5 minutes and I was ready to throw my controller out the window. I went to see my boyfriend and I'm like, I can't do shit. He's like, yeah, that sounds about right. So I want to see more experimental stuff out of Japan, like the stuff that we've not just the stuff we're comfortable with, but I want them to like push the boundaries of Final Fantasy, and I want them to find a way to immerse me again, because I used to obsess about those games from when I started until I finished it. I was obsessed. I was in that world, a bit like how I played Skyrim, a bit how I played Dragon Age. I was just in there. I was just engrossed, and every time I finished a game like this, I was hungover. I haven't felt that way about Final Fantasy since Final Fantasy X. And even maybe Bravely Default, maybe because it's DS and I played like in short bursts, I didn't feel as engrossed as I did. So.
Sarah's pretty quiet on down there. Sarah, are you big into the Japanese style games and RPGs and stuff? Do you have high hopes for Final Fantasy 15?
I've actually never played any Final Fantasy.
Ooh, you should.
Oh yeah. Like seriously, it's so weird because I've actually been kind of exposed to video games. Okay, so the first video game I actually remember watching somebody play before before Twitch existed. Like that was.
You were sitting next to the person.
yeah. You know that experience. It was actually World of Warcraft. Believe it or not, and I thought that was so cool. And I was super young. I think I was not even 10. And I kind of started to be like really interested into the whole video games, but I didn't really have anything. Like I think seriously, my first video game was Pokemon Yellow on Game Boy Color. Like really, that was my first video game. So I've never really played any of those Japanese games other than Pokemon. I've heard a lot of things about them. I've heard like a lot of good things actually. I'm thinking that at some point I will have to play those. But
that could be interesting. Like taking, especially when the Final Fantasy VII remake comes out, taking your experience if you play through the game as someone who's never touched Final Fantasy before, and then take someone who's like hardcore lives and breathes Final Fantasy VII, especially since that's one of the most iconic ones from the series, and putting those two ideas together and seeing what comes out.
That could be interesting, really. We'll see. But yeah, I'm not opposed to the idea. I'm just saying that I will be very bad. It'd be like,
oh no! We're used to playing StarCraft with strategy and that kind of stuff. It's essentially the same thing. Instead, you don't really have. Well, I'm not sure about. Yeah, you don't really have the real time thing.
Yeah,
it's still strategy though.
I don't play StarCraft. I watch StarCraft.
I thought you played StarCraft. You just watch it hardcore.
Oh yeah, I watch hardcore. Well, less now, but still, like I've watched it a lot, but I've never I've played it some, but like I'm not good at that.
Oh my god, so many hours spent playing StarCraft in my parents' basement.
But the beautiful thing about turn-based RPGs, they're basically an interactive movie, so there's no competition. That's why I love them so much, because I have very little I don't have a competitive fiber within me. But what's great about Final Fantasy, if you think about like that stretch like of iconic Final Fantasies, like people are like Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy VII, 8 and 9. People are on the fence. It's usually people. 10. 10 is a big one, but like they're all different games. They have all a core that's very like they have an aesthetic and a sound that's very Final Fantasy. And there's Airship, you're on Gaia, Uebo Utsamatu did the sound, the
Chocobos.
There's Chocobos, there's Kukos.
Priorities.
And the battle system is turn-based, but like the leveling system is completely different. Like sometimes it's job-based, sometimes it was like, was it like in Final Fantasy, it was the materials that you had to equip to get, and then you would draw magic and fill the materia when they was fully... I don't know. In Final Fantasy IX, every character has its job, and you had to use a weapon for a certain amount of time to learn the ability on the weapon and have it permanent. It's Final Fantasy X. You had a grid, and on the grid you could move on the grid, so you could like take your fighter, and it could become a caster if you moved it. I mean, my friend Guillaume played so much that his two main characters, Yuna and what was his name, Titus? Yeah, Titus had done the whole grid. They had everything.
That's a lot. The game's huge.
Wow.
It was he grinded a lot. Fuck. But yeah, so that's what I love and miss about Final Fantasy. So you would get that aesthetic, but you would get a different story in a different system every time with a core that was always the same.
That looks very interesting. Like, I'm not saying no. Maybe I'll try it out because like I said, I've never played those games, so we'll see.
We'll do our best to get those in your hand.
Yeah, we might have do we have a code lying around?
I have to look.
Because
I might.
We bought some of those Square Enix bundles.
Yeah.
To get games to give away.
Easter and Christmas bundles that were like $9.99 for $80.
We might have a Final Fantasy for you.
Wow.
So Patrick, what's next for you guys when it comes to Les Jeux Sont Fait? Do you have any really big upcoming guests? Are you planning anything super special when it comes around like LAN ATS and Dreamhack and things for focusing the podcast?
There are events that we're looking toward, like Comic-Con, stuff like that. For us, it's really interesting to have like 20 or 30 game developer at the same place at the same moment. So that's for sure. We're gonna check that. Then also we're talking about different kind of content. There's also E3 that is about to come. So maybe having roundtables and stuff like that may be also interesting to sit down with developers and being able to talk about, I don't know, Nintendo may announce a new system this year. So maybe talk about this new system because I'm pretty damn sure that they're going to have some crazy functionality or controller or I don't know, we'll see. But just to talk about that world of possibilities is really interesting to us.
I would always really curious, and though it's not necessarily developers, designers, but the folks around deciding what they show at E3 and how they plan those conferences, like that in itself is really interesting to me because it's marketing at its highest point, it's media at its highest point, and stuff can go wrong all the time. You see the dude playing the game live, but is he really? Because sometimes the game freaks out and he's just pretending. So.
No, that's super interesting because again, it's at the intersection of marketing, production, because at this point you may have some playable parts, but those are not the best. So yeah, this whole interplay between many people is really interesting.
And so just to give some folks some background on Les Jeux Sont Fait, you record how often can they expect a podcast to come out?
Every week. So every 2 weeks, that's the magic trick. We record 2 episodes, but every week we deliver an episode. So 1 week, usually it's really news focused, and the next week is pretty much a big interview. Usually it's 45 minutes to 1 hour, so it's quite interesting.
Very cool. And where can everybody check out what you do with Les Jeux Sont Fait?
lesjeuxsontfait.ca. So LESJUXSONTFAITS.ca.
Perfect. And do you have social media and stuff that people can track you down?
Yeah, absolutely. Just look Jeux Sont Fait on Twitter. So JAUXSONTFAITS on Twitter, and you're gonna have it.
Awesome. So I think that pretty much wraps up our podcast here for this evening. I really want to thank you for coming and joining with us, and thanks for interviewing Kat, giving us a little bit of exposure. We appreciate that.
My pleasure. It was fun.
Yeah. So folks, you should go check out Patrick's podcast for those who are French speaking. And we're really looking forward to seeing more stuff. I got to listen to Kat's podcast, and then I went back and listened to a bunch of others. So they're very, very good.
A little highlight, I love the episode with Nick Verge from Square Enix Montreal on community management. Just that whole idea was like, when people find out there's actually somebody answering your comments, they usually become decent again. I was like, preach!
That's the truth, isn't it?
Yep.
So thanks again to Patrick. Thanks, Sarah and Kat, for coming to join with the podcast. A reminder that if you're interested in going to LAN ETS, we do have a contest up on girlsongames.ca. So you can enter that. We'll be drawing it on Thursday for those BYOC. That's Bring Your Own Computer tickets. I know everybody's familiar with BYOB, but there's no booze involved with this. It's just computers. So I don't know. There could be booze on site that I don't know of, and if there is and I find it, I'll partake. But this is Bring Your Own Computer. So priorities. That's it for me this evening. We're going to leave out a high. If you want to know more about Girls on Games, of course, it's all on girlsongames.ca, but we do this podcast every Monday night at 8 p.m. on Twitch. That's Girls on Games on Twitch. We also have folks streaming all week But tomorrow's going to be a Guys on Games, I believe, because Simon's finally going to get his hands on Dark Souls 3 before he freaks out. I think he's already having a little bit of a conniption, the fact that he's doing this right now instead of playing the game.
I'm scared.
Sorry, dude. I apologize. Yeah, we're on Twitter, the Girls on Games, Instagram, Girls on Games, all that jazz. This is on iTunes if you guys ever miss it and want to listen back, like if you're doing other things, cleaning the house, commuting, all that jazz. The audio form's on iTunes. You can subscribe. And it's on YouTube if you want to watch our pretty faces. So thanks again. Have a wonderful week. Enjoy playing games. And we'll see you all next week, next Monday. Same bat time, same bat channel. Have a good one. Talk later.
Bye.
Bye.